And 3, 2, 1, action.
Aren't these baskets great? I got them at my local Goodwill store, though truth be told, I probably would have bought them if I found them at a home goods store. But I love the fact that they are reused, recycled, repurposed, and they cost practically nothing. They all coordinate with one another. I probably got them at separate times, but nevertheless, I love these baskets and I use them all the time. So I thought it might be kind of fun to go through my top 10 or so things that I like to look for at secondhand stores, at Goodwill stores, at Salvation Army stores, anything like that. And I do it for a number of different reasons. One, I love that I'm being a good steward of the earth, that I'm reusing, recycling, repurposing things that were previously loved and now I am loving them again. The other reason I like it is because they all already have kind of an aged patina, and I am definitely down in the record books as somebody who likes things that are a little bit aged, a little bit worn around the edges, and that have that well-loved, well-used look about them. I also like it because sometimes these are just the little bips and bops and extra things that I need for my garden or for my house that I can't find anywhere else. And then lastly, because they really get my creative juices flowing. I come up with ideas when I see something that doesn't necessarily have a purpose, but then I can kind of overlay a purpose onto them. And I'll give you a couple of examples. So I started out with my baskets. Baskets are something that I always am looking for at Goodwill, and I have found some really wonderful ones. Quite a number of them that you see hanging on tree limbs and things like that in my backyard are ones that were thrifted. I don't mind them being outside. If they age and decompose, that's okay, because I can just recycle them in the compost pile. They weren't expensive to begin with, and I like the look that they give the garden, even after they start to age a little bit. Something else, also plant related, that I always look for at Goodwill or my secondhand stores. Any kind of saucers. By the way, all of these things on the table I got at a secondhand store or a thrift store, with the exception of these lemon cypress. So these are little coasters. I got these at Goodwill. Whoops. And I didn't even break it. But I like these because they're crystal. They look great on my bar. And if I do drop them, if I do break them, it is not such a loss because they're not that precious to begin with. I also got them because they would make dainty little saucers for tiny little plants if I wanted to do something that was an elevated tablescape or something where I had individual blooms or individual pots at each place setting. I also like just basic utilitarian saucers. Now, why? Well, I always have saucers underneath all of my potted plants, and I like the saucers to match when I am kind of staging them inside. So if I have 4 terracotta pots, I then have 4 matching saucers that all look alike. They look harmonious, they match, and they're also doing double duty, protecting the surfaces of my wood tables or whatever. So I'm also always on the lookout for that. Probably the most frequently asked thing you guys inquire about are all of my plant stands, my metal plant stands. Now, in general, anything that is metal I look for at the junk store because I can a lot of times come up with some kind of utilitarian function for them, like this. Now, I don't know what was in this initially, but I love the fact that it is a perfect plant stand for this potted lemon cypress. And what this can do is kind of give layering, staging, and various elevations in my garden and on my tablescapes inside. The other thing that they're good for is if I'm putting out a buffet and I want, say, a platter of something or a bread basket up here, and then I want another basket down here, they can elevate an element in my tableau or in my tablescape that then gives more visual interest to the table itself. So I like them for that reason, for so many reasons. Here is this one right here. I have tiny ones, I have larger ones that I have large potted plants on that I set out in the garden. I am always on the lookout for these. Sometimes I regret telling you about it because recently I haven't been able to find too many of them. I think you guys are now going and scouring some of my same sources. Another great way to elevate a plant or really anything is an old columnar candlestick. This one is metal. I often use it as a centerpiece on my table outside. It was, and all of these, I should give you price points on all of these things. And I would say most of them range from 50 cents up to a high of maybe $5. I seldom ever spend anything more than $3 to $5 on something unless it's a jacket or a clothing item. But metal candlesticks, columnar candlesticks of any sort are great. Here's one that is wooden, and I buy them not so much to use as candle holders, but I buy them to just elevate things because that increases the stature and importance of almost anything that you place upon it. So I like that, and because I love layering and, as I said earlier, visual interest. Now here's a unique one. This was just, Stuart, if you could show them, this was just what at once I'm sure was pristine and a galvanized metal candle holder where you would put columnar candles on each one of these various levels. But what I have used it for in the past, and it doesn't bother me a bit that it is rusty and old looking, but what I've used them for, I've used these when I'm outdoor entertaining or having a garden party, that I can put, because the stake that holds the columnar candle in place will also secure and support these tiny little pots. I can then put succulents in all of these and have a little staging or a little theater for succulents. I could put spring blooms and have an assortment of pansies and violas in here. And then when my guests leave, they can each take their own individual little pot. It makes a nice display, and I just like the way it looks. And it can also obviously be used as a candle holder if I so choose. I always look for ceramics, cash pose, glass, clear glass in general, because you never know when they can be reused and repurposed for another function. So for example, I sometimes will find an interesting glass piece that I'll use as a cloche in the garden. I can use it as a clear vase. It might just be a great big jar or something. This cachepot is really beautiful. I don't know if it was originally very expensive, but I will probably be displaying some white tulips in it a little bit later. I've used it for fern, I've used it for hellebores. I obviously have probably used it for amaryllis, and I got this for a couple dollars at the Goodwill store. And then I have kind of a thing for both pitchers and bowls, shallow bowls. So I'm always looking for these kinds of things. Now you might say, well, how much of that junk do you really need in your house? Well, I don't need a lot of it, but I have certain special pieces that I like. Even Goodwill finds can be really special to you and prized. But what I also like to do with these kinds of things is use them for gift giving. So I can make some brownies or some cookies. I can package them up in one of these saucers and give it to someone for whom this color palette might resonate. There are so many of you blue and white lovers out there. I could put some granola in here. I could package really basically anything, put it in here and give it as a gift. And I like the idea of that. It makes it seem a little bit more special. Soaps, anything like that would be a really beautiful gift idea, I think. I've told you many, many times that a lot of the t-shirts that you guys ask, where did I get them? I get them from secondhand stores. Now my favorite place to do that is probably a secondhand store in Salida, Colorado called Free the Monkey, but I will look just about anywhere, and I get a lot of the t-shirts that you see me wearing in the garden. So I don't have to worry about them getting dirty, about them getting mucked up. I might put a hole in them. I don't really care. This is probably my favorite one. it really speaks to gardening, and it has dragonflies and things. And yes, I can tell, I got this one in Colorado because it's got Rocky Mountain Biological Laboratory on the back. So it not only serves a fashion function and a practical function in the garden, but also it's a nice little memory clediment that reminds me of some place that I've been. Something else I always look for are things that in my house get broken over and over again. I have 3 men in my house, 4 if you count Stuart, my photographer. And we're always breaking things. And I am of the opinion that nothing is so precious that you should really worry about it breaking. That's why I like to use all of my things. And this is an example. My husband's very favorite mugs are these Stoneware mugs. And let me see, what were these? Rego mugs, but he likes them because they really hold the heat. I had 4 of them. They came as a complete set from Goodwill. He has already broken a couple of them, or they've gotten lost in his car, but nevertheless, if I want to go back and get more all white mugs, which is generally what I use, then I will just go to the Goodwill store because they all match in color, if not in pattern. So that's a great idea. I love, as I said, anything that is kind of a shallow round container. This one is really interesting to me. It's probably just a silver plate dish. I love and I look for anything that's silver plated. This one I often use with tufts of moss at Christmas time or in the spring. I love that look. I will sometimes put maybe nuts or something like that in and use it as an hors d'oeuvre bowl. I can set another glass bowl inside of it. I just like the way it looks. I also like to use lots of silver coated trays, those kind of fancy trays. I use those a lot, and I use them to display my topiaries and things, again, because I like the way it looks. It doesn't bother me that they are old and they need to be buffed and shined. I like them with that kind of aged, sometimes coppery patina look that they get. They're great for topiaries, and again, they protect the surfaces. Along the lines of anything that's metal, if I just find anything that's kind of interesting, especially if it's got kind of an exotic feel. This one reminds me of maybe something that would be in Nepal or in the Orient or something. Then I'll get it. Lanterns especially sometimes show up there. I can hang this outside. I can put a candle in it, and I really like the way it looks. Now, circling and finishing up the table, I also always look for things that are wood. So I guess I'm kind of animal, vegetable, mineral. When I go to the Goodwill store, I look for things that are wood. I look for things that are textured, like baskets, and I also look for things that are ceramic or metal. This I got, and I have used this I don't know how many times. This is just an interesting box. What does it say on the outside? From Detroit, Michigan, from Goddard & Goddard. I don't know what it was for, but I like it because it inspires creativity. So over the years, I have put little cell packs of flowers in there, which makes a cute little display case for them. I have put flatware in here, forks, knives, spoons, etc. I've put that in there. I have put cellophane down at the bottom, and then I've used it for breadsticks and different kinds of things that I might want to serve with an Italian meal. I just like the way it looks. It could be a receptacle for almost anything, and it has I guess kind of that farmhouse chic or distressed industrial chic that I really like. So maybe that will give you some ideas next time you go to your Goodwill store. I can hear some of you saying, well, she must have a really good Goodwill store. I would just say, it's okay. It's not great. It's certainly not as good as the thrift stores in Salida, Colorado, but periodically it's on my way to Lowe's. So periodically I just stop in there to see what I can find and what I can reuse and repurpose. I love the fact that it is giving new life to new things and inspiring creativity. So next time you are ready for an outing, make sure to wear your mask, but get out there and go to your Goodwill store and see if you can find some treasures that you can use in your own home and garden.